Welcome to Sarder TV. I'm Kelsey Hubbard, and I'm joined today by Jeffrey Gitomer, author of Truthful Living, the first writings of Napoleon Hill. Welcome. Thanks for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
So you're not only a best-selling author, but also a sales international trainer. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you end up in the sales area?
Well, I started to manufacture stuff when I was in my 20s, late 20s, and I realized that if I didn't sell anything in New York City, it wouldn't get sold. So I cold called every single person that I could find in the genre where I was. I was making imprinted sportswear, I made leisure furniture, and I was the chief sales guy in Manhattan. So cold calling in the late 60s, early 70s, you could do it. You could just take the freight elevator and pretty much get anywhere. And the CEO would say, "How did you get in here?" And I would say, "Freight elevator like everybody else," and he would let me in.
The front door,
she would
right?
let me in, yeah. Or she would let me in. And I made a lot of sales. So I cut my teeth, as it were, in New York City and became pretty successful at it. And then I began to train it when I realized that I had a talent that other people didn't have. Then in 1992, my first column appeared in the Charlotte Business Journal. I started to write about it, and I went from expert to authority, literally in one day. Wow. And I realized after my first column that if I would just write 100 of them, I had a book, and I did.
Your new book is a collection of Napoleon Hill's early writings and lessons. Briefly remind us who Napoleon Hill is and how you came to write this book.
Napoleon Hill is the father/grandfather of positive mental attitude and personal development in America. He has sold hundreds of millions of books, and globally, literally. His magnum opus, Think and Grow Rich, has sold 100 million by itself, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So I got my positive attitude from Napoleon Hill, reading Think and Grow Rich as I was training myself in sales with a bunch of other guys, and we did a book report on a chapter each day in our meeting. We had the meeting for a year, so there's only 15 chapters in the book. We went through the book, I read the book more than 10 times in 1 year, and I got a permanent positive attitude. So when I met Don Green, who's the CEO or founder or head guy of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I offered something of value to say thanks. This is my deal with him. I said, "Look, I'll do your newsletter every week on one condition." And he said, "What's that?" I said, "That you never give me a dime." He was like,
an offer he can't refuse.
I'm pretty dumbfounded to give that kind of an offer, but I've been doing it now for almost 15 years. And we built a large list, and they found the first writings of Napoleon Hill a few years ago, and they called me and said, "Would you like to annotate this and edit this?" And I said, "Woo."
Tell us more about your personal connection with the writings of Napoleon Hill and how they influenced you.
Growing up in New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, and selling in Manhattan, it's hard to have a positive attitude when it's snowing and you're fighting for a cab and you're 5 minutes late for the biggest appointment of your life, and you just stepped in a puddle. Those things happen in New York, and so I called on those teachings all the time and focused on my desire, focused on my self-confidence, focused on my capabilities, and focused on my attitude in order to be able to go in any place, literally any place, and make a positive impression and walk away with a sale. So it influenced me literally and still does daily.
You say the Napoleon Hill Foundation found these early writings. Tell us about the process of you taking his writings and then creating this book.
Well, they offered me to create a book from it. The course was originally called Truthful Advertising, where he talked about how to sell ads, what to do, how to do it. But after each lesson, he wrote an after the lesson visit with Mr. Hill. And that was the beginnings of his, hey, you have to have a positive attitude in order to achieve anything in sales. You have to believe in yourself, you have to have self-confidence, you have to have enthusiasm, and all the structure for Think and Grow Rich was started in 1917, 20 years before he actually created this magnum opus, and so that was what was given to me. Well, many of the things don't appear in Think and Grow Rich the same way they appear here. This is his raw first thoughts, initial philosophies of how he got himself from where he was to where he is, and teaching other people how to do it as well. He knew that if he didn't instill attitude and belief in the minds of the people who were taking his course on how to sell, they would never win.
So who benefits most from the advice in this book? Is it people that are actively working in the field of sales, or can anyone take from this?
It was me. I mean, it was, just think about it. You as the reader, you look at this, at the inspiration and the words, and say to yourself, I can do this. This creates a transferable message. The person who reads this book will say, I get it, I agree with it, I think I can do it, I'm willing to try it. Because there's nothing in here that says enthusiasm. Wow, I never heard that before. But what Hill does is pretty magic. As we get into this, I'll try to explain to you why this book is so magical. And I'm not going to say it's life-changing. I am going to say it's life-altering. So you can take the skills that you have right now and morph them into better. So I don't want you to change it. I want you to enhance it.
Let's talk about some of the advice in the book. And in theory, everybody wants to succeed, right? When everybody starts out.
Yeah, I mean,
most people, I mean, that's pretty given.
I mean, I don't know of many New Year's resolutions that goes, I want to fail this year, damn it, because...
or I'm good just the way I am. Most people want to at least succeed, move forward.
I love this extra weight, I'm going to just keep it.
So then what differentiates those who succeed versus those who don't?
Here. All here. There are people who believe that they can do it. There are people who are willing to work harder than the other person to get it done. You see them all the time. They're on television. They're being interviewed by whomever. Most of them fail to thank the salespeople that got them there, but that's a whole other issue. I think, though, that there is a huge differentiator between the makers and the non-makers. There's three kinds of people. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who don't know what's happening. And those three categories pretty much take care of everybody.
So why do so many people fail, and how much importance did Napoleon Hill place on believing in oneself and the self-confidence that it takes to succeed?
The challenge that Hill creates in 1917, he tells people to concentrate. We'll talk about that later, but think about 1917, what the hell did you have to concentrate on? There was no TV, there was hardly any cars, the phone was pretty much brand new. If you want to go someplace, you took a train. So the diversions weren't there like they are now. And
the distractions.
This is a book on how to concentrate on yourself, not on what's on Thursday night at 9 o'clock.
And if you don't have self-confidence, it's not innate in you. How do you get it if it doesn't come naturally?
By winning. You go out and make a sale and you go, wow, I just made a sale. And even if it's Girl Scout cookies, you start out with something under your belt. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I'm teaching her. I'll let her introduce me at seminars, or she has a podcast. She's 9. We gave a seminar to a pretty big customer, and I said, if you'd like to talk about your website for a couple of minutes, after the break, I'll let you come up and do it. And she's like, cool. So she comes up in the break and picks up the microphone and goes, Dad. I go, what? She goes, sound check? Those are the things that breed confidence in a child. Parents breed confidence in a child or not. Or not. And it's all about how you let them express themselves and be themselves, and no different in this book. This book will allow you to express yourself and be yourself. And it will give you the tools to be able to do it.
Napoleon Hill writes about the importance of pursuing one objective or goal. So how key is this in the view of success? And I'm curious how this stands the test of time, given that we are in so much in the gig economy where a lot of people have a lot of different freelance things, or they're pursuing different avenues. Does that still stand the test of time?
Oh yeah, more so today. Because the people who have that vision and have that drive to do that one thing and that one thing best, you can count them here. And they know what they want to do. They're driven to do it. They wake up in the morning and they spend every minute at it. And in today's world, unfortunately, there are so many distractions that it's tempting. You know, the sirens are always out there. Not in New York City sirens, I'm talking about the ones with the rocks. Right. You know, okay. Because in New York City, other sirens are prevalent. But the challenge that a person has right now is to take their Hustle, many people have side hustles. Like they're in MLM, but they have a job on an everyday basis. Figure out which one it is, dude, and go for it with all your might. Otherwise, you take 50% of your energy and you divert it. And you can't, you'll get there half-fast, because I don't want to say half-fast, it's not the right thing to say. But you get there in a manner that takes longer and is more frustrating than if you would just take the risk. But most people cannot afford to take that risk. They have a mortgage or kids or college tuition or whatever it is, and they say, I can't, and can't means won't. I won't do that. So
is it changed the dynamic of industry, just because there used to be a time where you would go and work for IBM or GE and be there 50 years, and you could rely on that, and that's over too. So does that play into this too? People are worried that maybe if I get to a certain age,
they're not worried. They're greedy. They're hungry for everyone sees everyone else's stuff. You know, like, hey, where'd you get that? Yeah, I want to get one of those too. And you'll see lines forming at pocketbook stores or at the
Apple store.
At Apple, yeah, I love that. I love those lines. They're around the corner. And I think it's wonderful for our society to be able to have created those kind of memes where people actually really want to have that. So the challenge is, can you do what you want to do for yourself and afford to be able to get those things? Or do you have to go on the payment plan?
So interestingly, Hill wrote about imagination. How important is imagination, as Hill separates into two groups, reproductive imagination and productive imagination?
In today's world, it's called creativity. So I'm looking at something and I go, wow, I have a great idea as a result of seeing that. Or they see someone else's idea and they think, I can do this with that. So I'm looking at what exists, or I'm creating something brand new for myself. And it's all a matter of how can you do it slightly differently than the other person and create a market or create a demand for it. If you're on Instagram at all, and I'm addicted to the ads on Instagram, because I go in and it says shop now, and I go, oh crap, I gotta have that. And so I'll click the buy. They already know me. They love me on Instagram. I'm like, oh, welcome Jeffrey, here's what we got now today, come buy this. So I have the little things that screw things in better, cut melons better, whatever the deal is. And that's what you're looking for. What's that nuance that gives you something better than you have right now? And everyone's looking for that. Every single person is looking for that.
So how does the insight that Hill teaches help develop both self-improvement ideas and money-generating ideas?
Hill was all about wealth. He wanted people to be rich. And that's what Think and Grow Rich, and the title Think and Grow Rich is actually confusing. First you have to think. He says thoughts are things. Actually, thoughts become things. You think about something, and then you're willing to take an action. It doesn't just start with an action. It starts with a thought. And Hill put himself in a position where he wanted everybody to have lots of money, because he felt like if he could create wealth, look at the fans he would have. Look at the people who would go, oh, Napoleon Hill, that guy got me to be a millionaire. And he got many people to be millionaires by thinking and then doing. So it's think, comma, then grow rich.
So Hill often writes about the importance of having character and the value of self-confidence, being sincere, things we hear a lot about even today. It's funny how he was writing so long ago, but it's still so important in today's context, and especially in the context of sales. So what advice does he give to achieve those goals of having character, your self-confidence, and also achieving the sales that you want?
He wants you to walk into the room and be noticed. He wants you to sit down in a conversation and be respected and thought of as someone who is either a leader or as someone who had brought creative ideas to the process, and that sets you apart from the person that's just showing up to take. Leaders can be givers or takers. It's a choice. The givers tend to be more successful.
And he addresses the challenges of adversity. What is the lesson in some of the adversity that people face? Well,
what he says is that when something bad happens, it's normally a blessing in disguise. And if you, the listener, think about the crappy things that happened to you in your life, I will guarantee you that something good happened. You know, it's the optimist in the barn full of horse manure keeps digging because he knows there's got to be a pony around here someplace. And that's what Napoleon Hill says is dissect the things that have happened wrong and come up with something that made it better. What did you learn from this? Not lament, oh, woe is me, if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck. No, it's like, don't do that anymore, and here's what you can do.
Right.
One of the most interesting things about the book itself, Truthful Living, is that as I read it and as I annotated, or I took all the sales stuff out and I just left the Napoleon Hill personal development stuff, but the lessons became obvious. He just didn't end them. So I added the ending of how to put this into your life in the 21st century, and that is helpful because sometimes when you're reading 1917 words, you don't always get the lexicon. So I try to annotate it a little bit, but I didn't change one of Hill's words. The only thing I added were commas because he was like a non-comma person. So instead of having run-on sentences, we added a little bit of grammar to be able to make it more readable. And I took each chapter and wrote an introduction so you know what it's about, annotated a little in the middle, and then put a lesson plan at the end of it. And it just worked.
Yeah.
It totally worked.
No, it's great. And I love how there's such a focus too on young people, especially the lesson of time is money, as illustrated in the old story of the ant and the grasshopper meet in the cold of winter.
Yeah.
So how does Hill want young people to view time?
He says time is the most precious commodity that exists in the world. Once it's gone, it's gone. I have, in my lifetime, said you either spend it or you invest it. If you spend it, it's gone. You watch a half an hour of television, gone. You invest time in writing or reading or preparing or doing something for yourself, then that time is well, quote, spent, but really invested. And Hill focuses on the fact that your time fleets. It goes away very quickly. My dad said, days and weeks go very slowly. Years fly by. Mm-hmm. And so you think about, what happened to remember January?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that? Remember the New Year's resolutions that you made when you were half in the bag and all right, next year I'm going to be better. No, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
It happens day by day. And what he says is take advantage of every minute, take advantage of every hour, because if you don't, you think you have all the time in the world. Right. Then the time goes away. Napoleon
Hill describes the 7 rules for success. So
yeah.
Can you walk us through some of the key points?
Once upon a time, let me give you... in the 7 rules, here we go. First rule, you must believe in yourself. You must cultivate self-confidence. Could there be anything more obvious than that? No. And by the way, belief has 5 parts in sales. You got to believe you work for a great company. You got to believe you offer great products and services. You got to believe you're a great person. You got to believe you can differentiate yourself from your competitor, not compare. If you compare, it's price. If you differentiate, it's value. Okay. And the 5th and the most important is you have to believe that the customer is better off having purchased from you. And you can't believe it in your head, you have to believe it in your heart. Head is attached to price, heart is attached to wallet. Jerk on the heartstring, wallet comes popping right out of that back pocket, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got kids?
Yep.
What's their closing ratio? Got it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. The second is you have to cultivate enthusiasm. And enthusiasm by itself is one thing, but if you do it right, it's contagious. The third is you got to be honest. He says it's so self-evident that it's just a short piece, but you would be amazed at how many people lie.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about politics, but everyone in politics is pretty much a liar. And then you want your kid, now, I want you to see how the government works. No. Fourth, you must practice self-denial. In other words, get rid of the things that are wasting your time and focus on the things that will help you become successful. Fifth is you have to use your own willpower. No one's going to come in the morning and go, come on, Kelsey, you can get out of bed now. It's time to get up and be successful. You can do it.
Get on the treadmill.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Exactly.
And, I wrote the Little Red Book of Selling, and the first chapter is kick your own ass. Mm-hmm. Because no one's going to come in and go, come on, Bob, you can get to work on time. You're not like a 1-year-old walking to your dad or your mom. It's like real life. Sixth, you have to be unselfish. In other words, you have to be a giver. You have to be a benevolent person. And you look at the people that are most successful on this planet right now, they're givers. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them is either a philanthropist or a giver. And seventh, you must concentrate all your efforts in all your work. In other words, if you're not willing to put everything into it, don't start. This is not a one toe in the water, let's see how cold it is. This is jump in with your shorts, figure out how to swim, get to shore, and look around when you get there because you've done it yourself. I did it. That's the whole deal. I did it. And you know, these 7 rules, they're so obvious. There's nothing in here going, wait, Jeffrey, can you go back to rule 5? No, no. These are obvious, but here's the secret. If you combine them, you win. If you only do 5 or 6 out of 7, you're not going to win. Okay. You have to do all 7. Cool?
Yeah. But they're pretty just...
They're obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't be more obvious. And people are going to look at this and go, wait, it's too obvious. No, no, it's not too obvious. It's real. It's so obvious, you're going to overlook it.
Right.
And still have a car payment.
Right. Well, there are so many distractions now, as we said, of other things that you think at the time are important, but at the end of the day, if you stay on the course. So why is it so important to have a chief aim in life?
If you don't, that's what he said, this is your main goal. The one thing you want to do no matter what. I have goals, minor goals, but they're all on my bathroom mirror. So when I get out of the shower in the morning, I look at what I got to do. I remind myself of what I got to do. And at night when I brush my teeth and I'm ready to go to sleep, I see my goals again. Unless I'm in a hotel room, I don't grab my bathroom mirror with me. But I must tell you that there has to be one desired thing that you go for, and Napoleon Hill says, focus on that. That's why, and if you look at the millennial world right now, everybody brags about the fact that they have a side hustle. Make it your main hustle or don't do it anymore.
Right.
Make it the one, this is what I'm going to be the best dentist in the world, I'm going to be the best lawyer in the world, I'm going to be the best babysitter in the world, you know, whatever you're going to do. When I learned how to sell, I loved it. And I said, okay, I want to be the best. And I did that understanding that that was my chief aim. And I worked at that diligently. If you've read Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell thing, you have to have your 10,000 hours or there's nothing. So I have my 10,000 hours. And then I said, oh, I really like writing. I want to be the best business writer on the planet. The Little Red Book is now the best-selling sales book of all time, but I have my 10,000 hours. Mm-hmm. Then I started to speak. Ooh, that was fun. So now I speak to corporations all over the world, and I love it, but it was only because I want to be the best. Right. If I don't love it, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Life's too short to do what you know, I hate my job. Quick, it's America. Get another one.
Well, Napoleon Hill offers some convincing points about the idea of do unto others as you'd have done
right.
unto
He was big on the golden rule.
Big on the golden rule. Huge. And also not holding grudges, right, as defined by the laws of harmonious attraction. What does that mean?
Is that cool or what?
Yeah.
Come on. What he says is go after people who think like you think. Go after people who do what you do and try to develop friendships with people where you have things in common. They don't necessarily have to be the same thing, but it can be drive, it can be enthusiasm, it can be, you know, achievement, or it can be, I want to be the best speaker, I want to be the best sales guy. Hang around the best salespeople. Right. Hang around people that have done it. The great Jim Rohn said, if you want to be a great doctor, study medicine. Right. and so, but if you want to be a great father, then study being a father. Mm-hmm. And that leads us to, you know, this is Sarder. You're all about lifelong learning, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. And
so this book dovetails exactly into what Russ thinks. Yeah. He thinks lifelong learning, and he thinks it every day, and espouses it every day. And that's basically what you have here. This is a book that, if you buy the book, I recommend that you read all the full-page quotes first, so you get an idea of what's going on. Then read the book once. Then go back and tear the book apart. Read every page, dissect every page, and put it into your life in a way where you're hanging pages around where you can see them, violate all the copyright laws, make photocopies of them, stick them up on the wall. But this is a book for living, truthful living.
I think that he gave some great advice for people who sell their own services too, in terms of getting work or setting the price and what they will charge, because that's a big stumbling block for a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs and get into business for themselves. So what did he advise?
I'm sitting in the waiting room at U.S. Airways in the old days, and sitting next to me on accident was the publisher of the Charlotte Business Journal, who published my first column.
Oh.
It's January the 10th. And he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Great." He said, "What's your fee?" I said, $6,000 to give a speech. He said, "What was it last year?" I said, $5,000. He said, "Are you 20% better?" Like, I don't know. He looked at me and said, "Your fee is in your head." Oh. So I came back from my flight and I raised my fee $1,500 more.
Wow.
Gave 100 speeches that year. Now, should I have raised it at $2,500? But it's here.
Right.
It's 100% here, way before it's here. Thoughts are things. So I thought to myself, what is my value to the marketplace? And that's what Hill is telling people to do. Think of what your value is and charge that. Don't undervalue yourself, overvalue yourself, and let people tell you that's way too expensive. And then talk about what the value they get is. If the value delivered is greater than the price that you're charging, people will buy.
Many people struggle with this notion that a lot of times people say that if you can conceive it, you can be it, or you can achieve it. So tell us about people who, or what does Hill say about people who might have a dream and for different reasons, perhaps they haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve. What does Hill say about this and different reasons why they might not get to their goal, or what they can do about it?
Life has barriers. You get married, you buy a home, you have a mortgage, you have a child, you have a debt, you have expenses that exist in your life, and sometimes they get in the way of you risking. And so there has to be a balance between what are you willing to risk versus what do you have to do to live your life and be successful in your own mind. Some people are willing to risk everything. And you know what? They go broke sometimes. I don't think going broke is a sin. I think going broke said you went for it, you lost it, now here's a chance to get it back. The person who goes broke will probably go for it again because they were willing to take all their marbles and put them in the marble ring, and they go, lost my marbles.
Go for broke, right? That's the expression. It comes from go for it, or go all in, or don't go at all.
Right, all in. That's a classic poker expression. So my feeling is that each person has to make their own judgment. You know, I don't want you to risk not feeding your child, but I also want you to understand that if you're going to go for it in life and get what you want out of life, there has to be some balance of risk. And if you're risk averse, this is probably not a good thing for you.
Well, there's a lot of mental visual techniques which, if pursued, leads to sort of creating some of your own luck. How does Hill talk about that, and what are the things that he tells people to do?
Hill was a visualizer, and he taught people to visualize who they were going to become. And it wasn't something, you know, there's a lot of people out there that will tell you to fake it until you make it. Mm-hmm. What Hill was saying to do was live it in advance. Picture yourself being successful and then do the things that you need to do in order to become that vision, in order to become that person. He was giving people real world, on the street advice that they could use immediately by building their own stature, by building their own self-confidence, and by building their capability of being a better person first, and then a successful person second. Mm-hmm. Better person first, successful person second.
And a lot of that, he says, isn't necessarily only on your own. He talked a lot about building a support system for which people can draw inspiration and have people technically in their corner, so to speak. So whose support can people turn to help build their own success?
There's two ways of looking at that. Number one, it's your family and your inner circle of friends and people that will tell you you can do it, you know, come on, you can do it. There's an old story that two frogs were caught. They went by this bowl and it was full of cream, and they jump in and they're like, wow, cream, man, it's the greatest thing in the world. And they couldn't get out. They were like slipping down the side. And all the other frogs joined around the side and they're going, you're never gonna do it, you're gonna fail, you're gonna drown, you're gonna die. One guy drowned. The other guy kept going. And he eventually turned the cream into butter and walked out. He was deaf and thought the people were cheering him on.
Good story.
So that's the process. Now, the other part is Napoleon Hill created a process called the mastermind, where he said, get together with like-minded people who are on the same path, maybe not competitors, but other people who have the same drive, the same self-confidence, the same enthusiasm, the same desire, and talk about what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. And that will lead you to a better answer, because those 5 people or those 6 people getting together on a weekly or a monthly basis can provide answers that you may have overlooked, or can solve challenges that you've had, and they can help you get through your own brick wall.
And we talk about a lot of people spend their lives sort of searching for that magic key of success.
Yeah.
How does Napoleon Hill unlock that mystery?
Well, there's no magic key per se. There's no, like, the Lone Ranger had the silver bullet, which, pretty cool business card when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill's magic key is the word concentration. And he challenges people that the more you focus in and the more you concentrate on what you're trying to do, that is the magic key that will lead you to more success, greater success, faster success, more financial success. And he wrote a whole book on it.
Yeah.
It's called the magic key.
And he also talked a lot about, if it doesn't come quickly, sort of how Napoleon Hill described the best lens to look through adversity or failure when one faces it at any stage in life.
Yeah, if your attitude won't get you through the situation, you need to take a job at McDonald's or some kind of, and I don't mean to be demeaning about that, because a lot of kids, that's how they start their career, with a job at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or
But look
wherever.
at that as an opportunity, not sort of
Exactly.
settling. Like whatever job you're doing.
Your closing line at McDonald's is, do you want fries with that? So you're starting to
selling.
learn how to upsell, and you go on from there. But if you don't have the character or the charisma or the self-confidence to be able to get to next level, to next level, to next level, you have to figure out where you can be best and stay there. You can still be the best middle manager on the planet. You can still be the best salesperson on the planet, the best car sales guy, the best refrigerator sales guy. There's lots of things you can do and be best at. Teachers don't make a lot of money, but I'll tell you, the teachers that my child has right now, I want to give them a raise, because they're so wonderful and they're so dedicated. So just think about who you are as from fulfillment standpoint, and think about who you are as a person who goes home at night and feels great about what you do. It doesn't always revolve around money. Hill makes it about money, but you know well it doesn't revolve around money. I'm fortunate to love what I do.
And it's interesting. I would love to know what he thinks of this idea today of the helicopter parent who does everything for their child, so they don't learn how to do things on their own. And so this idea that these people are there and they're doing the best they can, they're building confidence. And so many of our kids get to college and they can't even find the cafeteria.
Rent a car.
Yeah.
They can't rent a car.
Yeah.
Mom, I got to rent a car.
Right. Or make a doctor's appointment, or whatever.
It's, as you know, it's wrong, but to what degree? That's the real deal. Yeah. I mean, for me, we live in a different world. I'm old enough to where I got spankings. Get spankings? Probably not. You're a girl.
Not right.
Yeah, I never spanked my girl.
Once or not a lot, but
Yeah,
not.
but now you spank a kid, he calls a lawyer. And so I want to make sure that society is breeding a race of our people, our citizens, that know how to succeed on their own. Let me give you the good news. Generation Z is here, and they will take over the millennials in about 5 years. And you won't hear about millennials anymore because they're working for the people in Generation Z.
So we're told in life you get one chance to make a first impression. And Napoleon Hill talked a lot about this type of idea of remembering things to come into a room and create a favorable impression. How important was that to him, and how did he advise people to make sure that they were on track?
He was natty. He dressed nattily and always created an impression when he walked in a room. Whether it was a top hat or the suit that he wore, the collars that they wore in those days, you attached the collar to the shirt. He recognized that when you walked into a room, you made an impression. So that was one part of it. But I'll share a secret with you. When you feel good about what you're wearing or what you look like, it adds to your own self-confidence. So you walk in a room and go, "Quick, I look pretty damn good today." And you, like I look in the mirror in the morning and go, "Whoo, way to go." and yes, I'll buy better clothing, and yes, I'll try to look as fashionable as I possibly can. But the bottom line is I'm doing it for me. And you do it for yourself first and then others second, and then you're creating a good impression. A lot of people don't care what they wear. Big mistake. And you have to some degree, you have to look at what is someone else going to think, what is someone else going to say. And because they're going to say something. Right. He look good or he look like crap.
So tell us about the 5-point rule.
Success may be had by those who are willing to pay the price. And most of those who crave a $10,000 a year position, 1917, so it's like $250,000, especially if they are engaged in business, may realize it if they will pay the price. And the price is eternal vigilance in the development of self-confidence, enthusiasm, working with the chief aim, performing more service than you're paid for, and concentration. With these qualities well developed, you will be sure to succeed. Let's name these qualities the 5-point rule. Isn't that cool or what?
That is.
So what he's saying is any one of these things by themselves will not give you the power that all 5 of them will. And notice that he ends with the word concentration, because that's the magic key. So he's already written about the magic key. Now he's telling you, here's what you combine it with to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, and stay
And
on path.
performing more service than you're paid for is an amazingly true thing in today's world. The companies who serve the best, and think about what the internet did, because you've bought stuff at midnight, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Knowing that you can return it. Women return things, men just keep it laying around. But you get the box and you go, oh crap, the shoes are a little small. I need another half size. So you send them back and they send them back and they're happy to do it.
Right.
That has created massive acceptance. People were reluctant to put their credit card online. Now everyone's a Prime buyer. Right. How do you get it? I primed it. Right. And it's unbelievable what happens when things become available and they are accessible at a point when you want them. Because just because you're closed doesn't mean I don't want it. Right. Like I'll call down, I'm working on a seminar and it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm hungry. So I call down and oh, room service closes at 10. Oh, I guess I'm not hungry. So think about what's available on the service level. Because the person could have just as easily said, you're in luck, Mr. Gitomer. We're closed at 10 o'clock, but there's 5 other places around here that are kind of better than we are and cheaper. I'll get you Uber Eats.
So for people just discovering the works of Napoleon Hill, what do you want them to take away from these early writings and from his teachings in general?
I want someone to read this book and say, where am I? In other words, self-evaluate as you're looking. That's why I tell people, just read it one time and see where you are. One of my employees, a 25-year-old young man who's going to be amazing, he read the book and he goes, I'm doing half of that stuff. It's the other half that I need. So I'm going to, like, cool. So this is for self-actualization and self-realization of where are you at this moment. This book should be read as literally as a self-test. What are you doing? How's it getting you there? And here's the easiest path for you to there's nothing complex in here. You don't have to run around the block 10 times. All you have to do is read and think. Yeah. Read, think, do.
Do, yeah. Well, it's been enjoyable. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. I've been speaking with Jeffrey Gitomer, the author of Truthful Living, The Early Writings of Napoleon Hill. I'm Kelsey Hubbard for Sarder TV. Thanks for watching.